Hello again, everybody. This is Rocket Rick J18 coming to you from the launching pad. And today I'm going to go through my 1961 top set and show you the cards that make up that set, and at least the base set. And we'll go into a few matters before that talks about the set itself, and then we'll look at the cards. So the first thing I want to mention to you is that the key rookies in the set are Billy Williams, Juan Marichal, and Santo. Those are the rookie Hall of Famers. And the set contains a total of 587 cards. There are two numbers that are missing completely, and that is card numbers 587 and 588, and then also card number 463 is printed twice, once as Jack Fisher and once as the Milwaukee Braves team card. And I'm going to make a little adjustment here. So those are a few items. Also, this is the first year of expansion, and two American League teams were added and two National League teams. The National League teams do not appear in the 1961 set, but the American League teams do. And so I want to mention to you also that as a result of the expansion, there are quite a number of players who are pictured without hats, and there are no team logos on the cards themselves, as far as except for the team cards. So this has led to when there's a portrait card of a player on one of the expansion teams or one of the new teams, because one team did change cities and names, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when you have these portrait pictures with where the player's not wearing any hats, they're sometimes referred to as the BHNH cards, and that stands for Big Head, No Hat. So that's a kind of a humorous little feature of that. So the team that changed cities was the Washington Senators, and they moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and changed their name to the Minesota Twins. A lot of people think the Twins were the expansion team because there is a new team in Washington called the Washington Senators, and that's what led to the confusion, because the old team was the Washington Senators, And the new expansion team is also the Washington Senators, 1961. The other team was the Los Angeles Angels. And as you can see, when we look at the cards, you'll get a good explanation of why there are so many big head, no hat cards. There are also a number of subsets. The league leader cards, the World Series highlights. There's a baseball thrills set in the 400s, 401 to 410. There are most valuable player cards, which are either blue for National League players or red for American League players. And they feature the decade of the 60s, or 50s rather, for MVPs. And finally, there's also All-Stars cards in the very last series of cards. The high number cards are more difficult to get. Also more difficult to get are cards beginning with 371 and going up through 589. There are a number of inserts, two insert series. One is the Topps stamps, which were inserted in two player panels. And also there are some pennants. And there are also a temporary tattoo, also known as the magic rub-offs, and those are also available to collectors. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at the checklist and see if we can show some cards. So here's the first 9 cards, and card number 1 is Dick Groat. Dick Groat was the National League batting champion for the world champion Pittsburgh Pirates in 1960, and he was also the National League MVP. In 1961, the American League MVP was Roger Maris, and so he is pictured as card number 2. Next is our first Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, Brooks Robinson, card number 10. Card number 15 is the ubiquitous Don Mossy. Next is Hall of Famer Robin Roberts, also future MVP for 1965, Zuelo Versalles, and here's Frank Robinson and Veda Pinson. Hall of Famer Nellie Fox. There's Hall of Famer and Rookie of the Year Ron Santo, 1961. Card number 39 is Leo Posada. Leo Posada is the uncle of Jorge Posada, and also featured on this page is 1958 World Series MVP Bob Turley. One of the most, and you can see here also some of the league leaders, batting leaders, home run leaders, and the first of the ERA leader cards. And the rest of the league leaders are pictured on the next page. Jim Cott, played over 20 seasons. There's Bill Verdon with the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's Harmon Killebrew. Tracy Stallard, you may recall, gave up Roger Maris's 61st home run in the last game of the season. Harmon Killebrew elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Card number 80. The only Hall of Famer from the state of Idaho. Here's future Hall of Famer Richie Ashburn. LA Dodgers card. Norm Cash was the batting champion in 1961 for the American League. There's Wendy Herzog, the White Rat. Harvey Haddix, the Kitten. Pitched 12 innings of perfect game before giving up a hit in the 13th inning. There's Johnny Padres, Veda Pinson, Dale Long hit 4 home runs in a game. There's Hall of Famer Eddie Matthews. Here's some manager cards. Ralph Houk managed the Yankees in 1961, replacing Casey Stengel, who was unceremoniously fired. Here's Walt Alston, Chuck Dressen, Danny Murtaugh, Solly Hamas. There's Billy Williams, Hall of Famer. And there's Willie Mays. Hall of Famer. There's Hall of Famer Whitey Ford. I didn't pay a lot of close attention to card conditions back when I was collecting these cards. And as a result, Whitey looks pretty rough, not quite as bad as Herman Jones or Ken Hunt, but pretty rough. Got a little writing on it. Tommy Davis won the batting championship in 1961 and 1962. And there's Bobby Richardson. There's Herb's score. On the back of his card, it shows that he won 20 games in 1956 and then won only 2 games in 1957. He missed a large part of that season when Gil McDougall hit a line drive back directly at Herb's score, hit him in the face and broke a number of bones in Herb's face. He never did really quite pitch as well again after that. And here's Milwaukee Braves pitcher Warren Spahn. Sandy Koufax, another Hall of Famer. Pittsburgh Pirate favorite Bob Skinner. Pete Runnels won a batting title with the Red Sox. Bob Gibson, Hall of Famer. Haywood Sullivan, future general manager of the Boston Red Sox, current 1961 catcher with the Kansas City Athletics. And here's more managers. Alvin Dark, Mike Higgins, Gene Mauch, Joe Gordon, Bill Rigney, Cookie Lavagetto. Don Hook featured in a light beer commercial. And the answer to the trivia question, who was the Pirate third baseman who played third base for the Pirates? And the answer is Don Hook. Bill White with the Cardinals came over from the Giants. There's the Yankees team card. Camilo Pascual with the Minesota Twins. Junior Gilliam, third base for the Dodgers. Dave Sisler, son of Hall of Famer George Sisler. There's Vern Law and Roy Face, two of the pitchers for the world champion Pittsburgh Pirates. Jack Sanford was originally with the Phillies, traded to the Giants, and was the great Giants pitcher, big power. With the Cleveland Indians, Don Drysdale, Hall of Famer. Bob Friend, Tony Kubek. There's Gene Woodling, Jose Pagan, Ray Ripplemeyer, future pitching coach with the Phillies. Frank Howard with the LA Dodgers, traded back over to the new Washington Senators. Here's Hall of Famer and rookie star Carl Yastrzemski. Here's Hall of Famer Stan Musial. There's Wes Covington with the Senators. Went on to finish his career in Philadelphia as the Phillies left fielder. Here's Hall of Famer Mickey Mantle. And here's his graded card. Rocky Nelson hit a home run in Game 7 of the World Series. Burden was the winner of Game 1. And here are the remaining World Series cards. There's Richardson, hit a grand slam in Game 3. The Pirates won Game 4 and Game 5. Whitey Ford came back, pitched his second shutout of the series. And but Game 7 was won when Bill Mazeroski hit a home run in the ninth inning to walk off the World Series for the first time, only time in a 7-game series. Lou Burdett won 3 games in the 1957 World Series to lead the Milwaukee Braves to a World Series championship. There's Rocky Colavito, now with the Detroit Tigers, having come over from the Cleveland Indians in a trade that sent Harvey Keene from the Tigers to the Indians, back to the Indians. There's Matty Alou, one of the 4 Alou brothers. A little known fact. The other 4 being older brother Felipe Alou, younger brother Jesus Alou, and the famous 1970 most valuable player Boogaloo. A lot of people don't know that. So that's no Hall of Famers there. Here's Sandy Koufax and Ernie Banks. Jim Pearsall, author of the book Fear Strikes Out, the story of Jimmy Pearsall's battle with mental illness. Here's Ryan Duran, relief pitcher for the Yankees. Dallas Green. He's a pitcher that won 20 games for the Philadelphia Phillies. And the only drawback is it took him 7 years to win 20 games. And there's Hall of Famer Frank Robinson, most valuable player with the Cincinnati Reds in 1961. The Reds won the National League pennant before losing to the Yankees in a 5-game series. There's Johnny Roseborough, Bo Drabowski, who achieved some notoriety in 1966 World Series when he came in relief and I think struck out like 10 batters or something in relief appearance. There's the Pirate ace reliever, Elroy Face. Bill Skowron. Yankees first baseman. Bobby Shantz won the National League MVP. Can't remember whether it was 1950 or 1951, back in that era. There's the Cuban Comet, Minnie Minoso, Hall of Famer. And Jim Perry, younger brother of Gaylord Perry. There's Hall of Famer Bob Clemente, Roberto Clemente. Didn't like the name Bob, but it wasn't his name. There's Ralph Terry, who was the GOAT. And by not, I don't mean greatest of all time. He gave up Bill Mazeroski's game-winning home run in Game 7, the ninth inning. Clemente batted .400 and hit safely in all 7 games. But Bobby Richardson was the most valuable player. He set a record for most hits in a 7-game World Series at that time. I believe it was 14, but I could be 1 or 2 off on that. Here's Babe Ruth's 60th home run. These are the Baseball Thrills cards. And Don Wall won 20 games in 1960 for the Pirates. Here's Mickey Mantle's baseball thrill, his longest home run, roughly measured at 565 feet, out of Griffith Stadium off of Chuck Stobbs in 1953. And there it is again. There's Haddock's 12 perfect innings. Walter Johnson, 3 shutouts in 4 days. Jack Chesbro's 41 wins in 1905, I think. Here's Hall of Famer Hank Aaron. There's an answer to a trivia question. Who was traded to the Cubs for Lou Brock? Ernie Broglio, straight up. Considered to be one of, if not the worst trade ever. If it wasn't that, it was the Cardinals trading Steve Carlton to the Phillies for Rick Wise. And there's Hall of Famer Juan Marichal. That's his rookie card. There's some paper loss on the front, much to my chagrin. There's Hall of Famer Yogi Berra, and Hall of Famer Al Kaline, and Hall of Famer Bill Mazeroski. And there's Chuck Stobbs, mentioned there, giving up Mantle's long hit. So 3 Hall of Famers on this page. Two Hall of Famers on this page, Orlando Cepeda and Luis Aparicio. Cepeda later won an MVP with the St. Louis Cardinals. Aparicio was Rookie of the Year in 1956 with the White Sox, later traded to the Baltimore Orioles and won a World Series with the Orioles. Won an American League pennant in 1959 with the White Sox. Here's Hall of Famer Duke Snider. Joe Nuxhall, youngest player ever to appear in the major leagues at age 15 when he appeared as a pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. He later went on to have a lengthy career with as a broadcaster for the Cincinnati Reds. The old left-hander. Wasn't old, though, in 1961. And Frank Malzone was an all-star with the Boston Red Sox. Here's Hall of Famer Early Wynn, 300-game winner. He pitched with that great pitching team. It included Bob Feller, Bob Lemon, and the only one of the three who was not in the Hall of Fame, Mike Garcia. Here's Hall of Famer Gil Hodges. One of my favorite players growing up, Johnny Callison, hero of the 1964 All-Star Game. There's Bobby Shantz, 1952, American League Most Valuable Player. Here's Mickey Mantle. There's another Mickey Mantle. This is an optical illusion. These cards are the same size, but this one's a little closer to the camera lens, so it looks a little bigger. There's Roger Maris, 1960 MVP, and of course this was before Roberto Clemente won his Most Valuable Player award. Willie Mays with his first MVP. Won another one in 1965. Two-time MVP, Ernie Banks. 1957 MVP, Hank Aaron. Three-time MVP, Roy Campanella. Yogi Berra also won 3 times. Mickey Mantle also won 3 times. There's a Hall of Famer, Jim Bunning. There's the original Tito Francona with the Cleveland Indians. Mentioned Harvey Keene earlier. Here's Hall of Famer Red Schoendienst. This is not Hall of Famer Joe Morgan. Hall of Famer Willie McCovey. Larry Sherry was not only a pitcher with the Los Angeles Dodgers, he was later became their pitching coach. That's a pretty bad picture there of Jim Coates. As I said, some of these are, I just wasn't paying very close attention to condition at the time. There's a picture of Bill Tuttle with that's not chewing gum by the way, that's chewing tobacco. There was an article in, I can't remember now what magazine it was in, Baseball Card magazine. I don't think it was Beckett. I think it was maybe Baseball Cards. But whatever it was a very sad story written by Bill Tuttle's wife and daughter were interviewed. I guess not an interview with them. And Bill Tuttle sadly died of mouth cancer caused by chewing tobacco. Here's Hall of Famer Hoyt Wilhelm. World champion Pittsburgh Pirates in 1960. Another one of the famous Lou brothers. Jim Gentile hit 5 Grand Slams in 1961. He's on the 1961 home run leaders card that came out in 1962. Paul Richards got on the 1961 manager because the 1960 pennant winning manager Casey Stengel got fired at the end of the year, so he wouldn't. Danny Murtaugh was the National League manager. So here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hall of Famers. 2 guys who've been under consideration for the Hall of Fame. But didn't quite make it in. Here's a few more Hall of Famers for you. Again, 5. This time they're in a row. There's another Hall of Famer. Card of Mickey Mantle. And here's a couple more Hall of Famers. As we mentioned, this is card 586. This is 589. This is an error card. That's why it's in here at this particular juncture. And these 2 guys are both in the Hall of Fame. So that concludes a review of the 1961 set. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, you can like and subscribe. And if you appreciate this series, I would appreciate it if you would comment on it. So this is Rocket Rick J18, wishing that all your collecting dreams come true.